Are you an atheist? Well, that might depend on how we define atheism. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the two main ways of understanding atheism and why some people prefer one way and some people prefer the other way. By the end of this video, you're going to have all the arguments so that you can make your own mind up. It's up to you which definition you use. And we're going to start that right now. Hi, I'm Mark Jago. I'm a philosophy professor, and in this video, we're going to be looking at the two main definitions of atheism. On the first approach, we start with atheism as a theory. It's the theory that there are no God or no gods. So an atheist is someone who believes that theory, somebody who believes that there are no God or gods. On the second approach, by contrast, atheists are all the people who don't accept theism. That is, they don't believe that God or gods exist. So the two approaches are very similar. One says to be an atheist, you just don't have the belief. Whereas on the view that I prefer, to be an atheist, you have to have a belief, the belief that God or gods don't exist. We're talking about a label. We've got some theories on the table and pretty much everyone agrees about what the different theories say. And then the question is, what do we call each of those theories? What do we label them with? Which one gets to be called atheism? I don't think that's the biggest issue. The big issues in the area are, does God exist? Do we have good reason to think that God exists or not? What are the arguments? How do we feel about those arguments? And then what do we do with them? Okay, so if we decide to believe that God doesn't exist, or if we just withhold belief on that, how do we live our lives? How do we treat other people? How do we kind of get a kind of an ethics going? Okay, those are the big issues. So as I see the situation, the theories, the potential theories that are out there, the situation is going to look something like this. So if we draw a big Venn diagram of all the different viewpoints, over here we've got theism, right? God exists. That's a metaphysical theory of the world. It says God or some gods, maybe multiple gods, exist. And then over here, we've got the denial of that view, in the sense of the theory that says God or some gods don't exist. Here, everyone agrees that that is theism, and to be a theist, it means you believe that view. Over here, we might say, okay, those are the atheists, or alternatively, we might say, no, all of these people round here, all the ones who don't fit in this circle, are the atheists. Why would you accept one rather than the other? Okay, so there is definitely something to be said for the view that all of these people here are atheists. And I think there's good historical reasons for that. So this viewpoint, the God or some gods exist, has been historically dominant, right? In most cultures, the dominant cultural and social view is this one. So everybody out here was in some sense a social minority. They were maybe oppressed. So even though maybe they had different views of how the world is or on what we can or can't know, all of these people had something socially or culturally in common. They were against that kind of dominant view. So socially speaking, I think there is something to be said for counting all of these people as atheists. But that's not my preferred view. I think it's a good view. You can well have that view, but I think there's a better view. And that view is the view that we should identify this theory here with atheism, and the people who hold that view, they are the atheists. So we would have the atheists here. Okay, so why would I prefer that view to the view that all of the people here are the atheists? Well, I guess it's because I'm a philosopher, and in doing philosophy, I'm much more interested in thinking about theories or viewpoints or worldviews, or what you might call propositions, than I am in thinking about how we should label people. Propositions that the world is such and such. Okay, things are like this, irrespective of whether anybody believes them or not. Here's one proposition. It's the proposition that God exists, or that some gods exist. That's a kind of a big worldview. It's a theory. What is the opposite of that theory, of that proposition? It's this one here. It's the proposition that God or gods don't exist, that there are no God or gods. That's clearly an important viewpoint. It's clearly an important proposition. What are we going to call it? Well, we could come up with a new label for it. We could call it anti-theism or non-theism or positive atheism or something like that. But look, we've got a perfectly good word for it already, right? Atheism is a very important concept historically. Here's a very important worldview, an important proposition that negates theism. So I think it makes good sense to identify that viewpoint with atheism. What atheism as a theory says is this: there is no God, there are no gods. Okay, if we identify all of this stuff over here with atheism, really there's no one viewpoint that it picks out, because people in here might say, I haven't thought about the issue. People in here might say, you just can't know either way. And it's only the people in here who say there's a definite viewpoint there, that is that God doesn't exist, that there are no God or gods. So having identified the theories, the viewpoints, the worldviews, the propositions or whatever, there is theism, and people who believe it are theists, and there is atheism, and people who believe it are atheists. So that's my philosophical reason for identifying this group of people with the atheists rather than this bigger group here. So on the way I'm seeing things, in here you've got people who've never thought about the issue. In here you've got people who've thought about it and said, you know, that theory, you just can't know either way. So in here we've got the agnostics. They don't count as theists and they don't count as atheists. On the other understanding, all of these people here count as atheists, including the agnostics. Again, I don't think it's a big deal what we label them, but that's my reason for preferring identifying these people as the atheists as opposed to all of these. The most important thing that I want to get across here is I don't think it's that big an issue, okay? The most important issues are, what are the arguments like for the existence of God or against the existence of God? How are we going to evaluate those arguments? Which one do we end up believing? And once we've made our decision there, what do we do with it? How do we work out our ethics, our series of values, our sense of meaning, how we live together in a secular society or not? Okay, how do we work out those really important issues? The issue of how do we label the kind of views we've got, it can be important, but I don't think it's the biggest kind of issue. If you are watching these videos and learning about contemporary philosophy, it's worth knowing that the kind of definition that I've been working with here, that is, I think, the dominant view in contemporary philosophy of religion. It's the view that most philosophers tend to put forward when they're talking about atheism. If you're interested in why that might be, I can recommend you go and take a look at the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy entry on how we should define atheism and agnosticism. Stanford Encyclopedia is a really good and free resource for getting to grips with understanding contemporary philosophy and all the kind of moves that go along with it. If you want to hear more about the philosophical arguments surrounding atheism, go and take a look at this playlist just here. Thank you so much to all my Ko-Fi supporters for making this content possible. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you back here soon.